ياسين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أتمان الأكملان خير خلق الله أجمعين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Welcome back to the continuation of Tafseer of Surah Yaseen. Today we will be starting on verse 37 and work our way through to verse 44, inshaAllah. We'll begin with the recitation. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. As we said, Surah Yaseen, the main theme of this surah is what? Yes, resurrection. The affirmation of resurrection. And we said that this surah, like the Quran in general, approaches this subject from many different angles. Before this came the story of Ashab al-Qaryah, and through that story was resurrection being affirmed in a very subtle way. That Rajul that came from Aqsa al-Madinah, he was killed. What happened to him? قِيلَ دَخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ, enter paradise. He was in the hereafter, meaning he was resurrected and then he was given his reward. Now, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now takes a more direct approach in convincing and affirming that indeed without a shadow of a doubt He will resurrect mankind. So what followed were ayat, signs for people to reflect over. And those signs in and of themselves pointed towards Allah's greatness, His power, His qudra, implying that He has the ability to do this thing which you think is so ajib, which thing that you doubt. Is it really possible that these bones have become dust and then all of a sudden they come back to life? Rāzī, rahimahullah, in his tafsir, he said that, look at the verses before the ayat. Allah said, وَآيَةٌ لَهُمُ الْأَرْضُ الْمَيْتَ أَحْيَيْنَاهَا. Allah spoke about the barren, dead earth. Okay? And then He spoke about the pastured green land, that it grows on it hab, nakhil, a'nab, the seed, and the date palm tree, and then the grapes. He spoke about ayat that relate to makan, to places, to space. This verse, verse 37, there's a shift. The shift is now the ayat was speaking about makan, now they are going to speak about zaman, about time. Signs related to time. How is this time related? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse, وَآيَةٌ لَهُمُ اللَّيْلُ نَسْلَخُ مِنْهُ النَّهَارَ فَإِذَا هُمْ مُظْلِمُونَ. Speaking about the night, how the darkness of the night is taken out from the day. Once the light is taken out from the day, إِذَا هُمْ مُظْلِمُونَ, they find themselves in darkness. So he said, let's compare the two. The dead, barren earth, and then the pastured green land on one side. Then you have here light, daylight, and then you have darkness of the night. How do these two relate to one another? Okay, did you get this? He's comparing the two. Ayat of Makan and ayat of Zaman. So he said that the dead earth, okay, it symbolizes, he said the night is a time where there's quiet, calmness, there's no loud voices. It's a time of rest. This is like the Ard Mayta, the dead barren earth. Lifeless, there's nothing there to be seen, there's no growth, there's no activity. And wash-shams, but the sunlight is when the daytime comes. Daytime for man is a time of activity, working, laboring. That is like the pastured land. The land which has the hab, the nakhil, the a'nab. On this side, it's about activity, growth of the crops. And on this side, daytime is also about the activity of man. He's comparing the two. Then he said all of them together are symbolic for the resurrection. Because the man will be dead in the earth, just like the ard which is Mayta, the dead earth. And then he will rise and come to life just like the sun brings life to the earth in our everyday lives. But the difference is, it will come to life, man will come to life from the dead earth by the blowing of the trumpet. By the blowing of the trumpet. Unlike life in our times here in this dunya comes to life with the rising of the sun. So he was comparing the different signs together very beautifully. Okay. Now, we get to the actual tafsir. Tabari rahimahullah said that this verse, وَآيَةٌ لَهُمُ اللَّيْلِ, and another ayah for them is the night. نَسْلَخُ مِنْهُ النَّهَارِ, that the night or the night time comes about how? It comes about because Allah نَسْلَخُ مِنْ نَهَارِ, that from the day Allah takes away the light. فَإِذَا هُمْ مُظْلِمُونَ, as a consequence of Allah doing that, they end up in a state of darkness. He said, At-Tabari rahimahullah, that this shows us the power of Allah to do whatever He so pleases in a manner that He so pleases. He said that النَّسْلَخُ مِنْهُ النَّهَارِ is Allah saying نَسْلَخُ عَنْهُ النَّهَارِ, that He takes it out from the day. The interesting thing is this verb نَسْلَخُ, as Zamakhshari said, it comes from the root word of salkh. Salkh in Arabic refers to skinning an animal. Okay, the sheep is skinned by the butcher. So you take off the skin and you're left with the shat, the flesh. Allah is saying that this day is like this jald, the skin. Naslakhu, He takes it off, what is left is the flesh. But just like the skin has been peeled back, so too can it be rolled over once again to cover up. As the daytime comes back, the night disappears. This is showing us the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind, these signs that we can see and appreciate every day never really come into our minds most of the time. Sayyid Qutb rahimahullah said, some of the signs that Allah speaks about are things we can perceive, but we don't. Because the novelty of these signs has worn away, because the familiarity. We see the sun coming every day, the night every day, the moon. We don't look at them like a sign of Allah's power. So he said, now imagine the case of a blind man. He's never seen all of his life. One day Allah gives him sight. That morning he is taken with a friend in the middle of the night to the horizon. And as he sees sunlight for the very first time, and he sees the sun rising before his very eyes, he is in awe of Allah. That is how you should look at the ayat of Allah. And I was thinking about, for example, the eclipse. We'll come to the eclipse later on. But the fact that something strange happens every so often is a blessing from Allah, because when something changes, something abnormal happens, you look at the same thing in a different way. It's the same sun and the moon, but because they're eclipsing and you find darkness when there should be day, okay, you look at them in a different way. And for the believer, he's not just looking at it and being amazed by the phenomena. He is seeing, these are the ayat of Allah, pointing towards His qudra, pointing towards His power. Very subtle point by Sayyid Qutb rahimahullah. Now what Tabari was saying, he said that this shows us the power of Allah to do whatever He wills as He wishes. He was saying that Allah is saying, don't look at the coming of night as something that happens by itself. It happens because naturally that's what happens. It's nature taking its course. The day comes and then the night. What's the big deal? No. Allah said, نَسْلَخُ مِنْهُ النَّهَارِ. It is not just happening. Somebody is doing it. Allah is doing it. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he said that the changing of the night and day, this phenomena, ever changing from night and day, it is controlled by Al-Aziz Al-Alim, by the Almighty, the All-Knowing, to the benefit of mankind, to the service of mankind. He said, don't you see, by the changing of night and day, human beings experience heat, cold, shade. The beasts and birds begin their migration because of the changing of the seasons. And moreover, with this changing of night and day, time is compartmentalized. With it you get your centuries, your years, your months, hours, so on and so forth. And all of these things are of benefit to you, O human beings. So not only is it about the qudra of Allah, these signs build an appreciation within the human being that these coming of night and day, I am benefiting from it. All of this beauty around me, the seasons, the cold, all of this is because of that phenomena. And that phenomena has been put in place by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shukr. Qudra and shukr are two reoccurring themes throughout these ayat. Okay. Qurtubi said, here we are shown how the ever-changing phenomena of night and day points towards the tawheed of Allah, His power and necessity of His godhood, His ilahiyya. Okay. Now specifically, the qudra of Allah, the power of Allah, is being displayed here in two different ways. The first is the use of the word naslakhu. Allah didn't say yansalikhu. Naslakhu is the first person narrative. I do this, I said this. Yansalikhu is the third person narrative. He did, he said. Which one is more powerful? Which one is more direct? Which one builds more of an awe? The first person narrative. Naslakhu, we, Allah referred to His majestic self. We are the ones extracting out this light from the daytime. فَإِذَا هُمْ مُظْلِمُونَ. Number 1 point. The second way Allah's qudra is being shown in this ayah is He said, فَإِذَا هُمْ مُظْلِمُونَ. As a result of what I just did, they become in a state of مُظْلِمُونَ. They said مُظْلِمُونَ comes from the word أظلم. أظلم, like we say أصبح. Yeah, we reach the morning. Yeah, أصبح أمسينا. You know, as you say in the dhikr of the morning and the evening. This أصبح, here, أظلم, has this meaning of somebody is doing this to you, putting you in darkness. That this darkness was cast over you, O human beings, by me. فَإِذَا هُمْ مُظْلِمُونَ. This is the second way that this ayah is teaching us about Allah's qudra. Okay, next verse. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. وَالشَّمْسِ. Ibn Āshūr said the wow here is referring back to the previous verse where Allah said وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ, meaning this is another one of the many ayat of Allah. The first one was about the night. This one now is another ayah. What is this one about? This one is about the sun. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي. Tajri means that the sun is running. Jari or jara also has this meaning of running, moving in a stream, going somewhere. There is a movement there. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا. That this shams is moving to what? This mustaqar, this place. There are two interpretations here. Tabari mentioned both of them. The first is that the sun is moving to a particular point in time. That it moves according to set measure to a particular point in time. This is the mustaqar. The second view is that it is moving to a particular place. Now, the second view has a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ to, if you like, affirm it. Hadith of Abu Dharr in Sahih Bukhari, where the Abu Dharr once saw the sun setting, and the Prophet ﷺ was there with him. And the Prophet ﷺ said to him, "Where do you think the sun just went?" He said, "Wallahu wa rasuluhu a'lam." Allah and His Rasul know best. You know, when the companions would say that statement, what they meant is that we don't know. Allah has taught you, tell us, Ya Rasulullah. The eagerness for knowledge. Allahu wa rasuluhu a'lam. So the Prophet ﷺ said, it has gone to make sajda to Allah. It makes sajda to Allah, then it asks Allah for permission to rise once again. Allah gives it permission, so it goes back to where it came from, to rise in the east once again, to set. Every single day. And the Prophet said, that is the mustaqar of the shams. That is the place. So here, the mustaqar was spoken about as a particular place. Now Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah quoted Abu al-Aliya, one of the early Muslims, a great scholar. He said that this is the case with the sun, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. But it is also the case with every star, with every planet, with every moon, that as it orbits and as it sets, it goes to do sajda to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeks permission to rise once again. Only when it gets permission does it go back to its beginning place once again. Okay, so you can really feel how these verses are expressing the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا. The second interpretation was that it makes mustaqar in time. What does that mean? It means that the sun is moving, tajri, to a particular time, meaning the time of day, however many hours it is, has been set by Allah. It will never go beyond that point and never be less than that point. It is fixed, mustaqar, in time. Allah has decreed that the shams will rise for this long. Not a moment less, not a moment more. Again, expressive of Allah's power and ability. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. Here Allah makes it very clear. These signs are happening not by themselves. It is not the case that all of a sudden it just happened to be like this. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِير. That is by the taqdeer of Allah. Taqdeer in Arabic has this connotation of precision, determination to the very, very nth degree. This is the taqdeer of Allah. And who is Allah? Two attributes have been mentioned here. Al-Aziz. Tabari said, because look at that shams out there, that great ball of fire. Allah has set that sun on its course and decreed where it would go, what time, fixed it. Allah is in control of this sun. And He is Al-Aziz. If you deny this, if you turn away from my messenger, if you belie my signs, I am Al-Aziz, I will punish you. Al-Aziz. And then He said, Al-Alim. Al-Alim, because this sun, as it comes up and you receive light and your food, your crops grow and you benefit from it so much, I know that that is what you need. Al-Alim, I am all aware of the needs of my creatures out there. I know you need sun, I know you need daylight, and I know you need a time for rest, the night. I have done all of this for you, my ibad. I created you and I know what you need, and I have determined all of this for your benefit. Subhanallah. How Allah Jalla wa Ala is creating not just this awe of His power, but this shukr in the heart. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. Yani He knows what you need. Now the Quraysh, listening to this, the first audience of the Quran, they must have been thinking, Subhanallah, yani this Allah, we believe in Him, but we never knew that He could take care of us in such an intimate way. And we go to the idols, Lat and Uzza and Manat, in order for them to help us in our everyday lives. You know, the small things, we need them. Allah is saying, I know all of your needs, and I am providing for all of your needs. Why? Why would you go to anyone other than me? وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. Okay, we mentioned the two views. The thing is now, if you wanted to look at it from an astronomical point of view, imagine someone who studied astronomy, he reads وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا. He may think that the meaning here is that the sun is in orbit. He may think that it's in orbit, because tajri means to move. Okay, tajri, he may think it moves in orbit. Even if we said that that is possible, though that is not the meaning here, it would not contradict what we know today in astronomy. Because today, okay, astronomers said that the sun also has an orbit around the center of the Milky Way. And this orbit ranges from between 225 to 250 million terrestrial years. That even the Shams itself is in orbit to something bigger than it, the center of this Milky Way. They call this the galactic year. But the point I wanted to make is this. The meanings related to us by the early Mufassirun, imagine, this is 1400 years ago, they knew nothing of orbits. Yeah, they had some knowledge of astronomy, but nothing like we know now. People used to think that the world was flat and then round. Some people thought that you'd fall off the edge. Only now do we know more accurately how Allah has created all of this. But the way that the early Muslims interpret the Quran never contradicted anything that we came to know today as fact. And amazing. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا. And who could ever say that, no, this is wrong, because the sun, it doesn't move. Either the sun is moving in an orbit or it's moving on its axis. And today we know both is true. Who's to say that it's not from the perspective of the sun, it's from the perspective of the man. He sees the sun here and then moving and setting over there. It is still moving. Yani from all perspectives, it is amazing. Allah preserved this deen. And the earliest people who spoke about it were the most knowledgeable of it. And the proof of that is that what they said 1400 years ago, we know to be even truer than perhaps what they did in their times. It's amazing. Fahamus Salaf, the understanding of the Salaf, will always trump the understanding of the Khalaf, those that come after them. You just have to have an appreciation. You just have to look, just have to read, and there you will find everything. Amazing, yani. Just subtleties. If you had used this word, people would say, no, it's not like this. Really, we know it's different. Amazing. Anyway, let's continue. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, to conclude that verse, that the shams, as the Prophet ﷺ said, makes sujud. It makes sujud in a manner that befits its nature. Just like the angels make sujud that befits their nature. Just like the jinn make sujud that befits their nature. Just like we make sujud which befits our human nature. There is no contradiction. There is no ishkal. How exactly does the shams make sujud? Well, do you know how the angel makes sujud? Have you ever seen an angel making sajda to Allah? No, you haven't. So the sajda of the shams is as real as the sajda of a human being. It's a small point Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentioned. Ibn Kathīr now brings one other view about this. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرِّ اللَّهِ. He said that the shams here is moving to its end point, which is Yawmul Qiyamah. This is like another view now, that the shams is heading on a course which ultimately will come to an end when the trumpet is blown. Okay, this is another view. He said at that point the sun will be rolled up, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran. Okay. وَالْقَمَرَ قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلَ حَتَّى عَادَ كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ. And the moon, we have determined for it phases until it returns like the old date stalk. Now, وَالْقَمَرَ is how we read it here in this qira'ah. However, most of the Qurra recited it as وَالْقَمَرُ. وَالْقَمَرُ, because they said this wow is linked, is atf upon the wow of the shams, meaning the verse before. Allah said وَالشَّمْسُ, and this one is carrying on, so it should be وَالْقَمَرُ. However, here we have the other recitation, وَالْقَمَرَ. وَالْقَمَرَ with the fatha is maf'ul bihi. It's in the state of mansub. Yeah, nasb. Okay, so what does that mean? According to the first recitation, وَالْقَمَرُ, it would mean that here is yet another ayah of Allah, that this moon has been made in manazil, has been set in stages. We'll come to that. That's the first view explained. The second view, which is according to this recitation, وَالْقَمَرَ, refers to the word after it, which is قَدَّرْنَاهُ. Allah is saying that we قَدَّرْنَا, have made taqdeer. We have determined the moon. Okay, so Allah is the doer, and the act of the decreeing or the determination is upon the moon. So it's maf'ul bihi. Yeah, that's why you read it وَالْقَمَرَ. What has Allah determined for it? Allah has determined for it manazil. Manazil refers to the lunar phases, that the moon, it is born and you see it like a crest, and then it moves Every day you come back, you see it becomes fuller and fuller and fuller until it becomes the full moon. And then it begins to wane, okay, until it becomes a crest once again. Now regarding that crest, Allah described it here. He said He made it into the manazil حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم, until it returns to being like what? Urjun. What is urjun? Urjun, they said, it refers to either one of two things. The first is that it refers to the date palm tree, the stalk. You know the leaves, the stalk rather, they have the leaves, the stalks on each side. This is known as urjun. But Allah didn't say just this urjun, He said urjunil qadim, the old date stalk. So when you take this date stalk and break it off, okay, it's already bent, yeah, it's like this shape. But once it becomes old and withers and becomes more frail, it becomes even more bent. It becomes even more bent, like the crest of the moon. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that we have set it like this. Set it like this. It goes through its phases. Okay. So now some linguistic points. Okay. Allah said, وَالْقَمَرَ قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلَ حَتَّى عَادَ. Allah said that, He didn't say that this moon becomes كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ. He didn't say صَارَ, that it becomes. Allah said, what did Allah say? Any people listening or not? عَادَ. He didn't say صَارَ, He said عَادَ. عَادَ means to return. Why do you think Allah didn't say it becomes like the date stalk? Rather He said it returns like the date stalk. Aada has this meaning that something doesn't just become, it is returning to something it once was. The moon, Aada kal-urjun al-qadim, it's like this date stalk, old date stalk. It was like this 1 month ago at the very same time. Manazil, going round and round. Stages that Allah has set for it. It goes from one to the last, only to come back to the first once again. Aada is going, occurring, reoccurring every single day. Okay. The second linguistic point was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ. Now we said the second meaning. The second meaning of urjun is not the stalk, but it's actually the date palm tree itself. The date palm tree, once it dies, it begins to wither. It becomes yabis, as they say. It becomes weak and frail. As it does this, it begins to lean on one side. It begins to fall over on one side, keel if you like. And that then makes the shape. There's another possible meaning as well. The bark of the date palm tree. Have you seen the bark? It's like the pineapple, you know, with the like chips all around it. Have you seen the pineapple? The date palm is like that as well. It's got these leaves that, you know, are intertwined. They said that it refers to one of these. That once you take one of these leaves out and dry it, like it becomes qadim, and it shrivels up like a crest. And it looks very much like the moon when it's either just come or when it's at its very end. Okay, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentioned one aqdi point, one point of theology. Whoever studied the Aqidah al-Tahawiyah would know that there's one statement Tahawi made which was seen as controversial by many scholars. He said, Allah qadeemun bila ibtida. Allah is qadeem without a beginning. Here Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, look here, Allah referred to the moon as being qadim, which shows us that qadim has this meaning of not just being old, but that something could have come before it. It's going round and round. So it was old, but that doesn't mean that it was the first. There was a new moon before that as well. There was an old moon before that as well. So it is not right to attribute to Allah the attribute of being qadim, which they translate as ancient, because the way Allah used the word in the Quran referred to things which are not al-awwal, the first, before which there was nothing. Huwa al-awwal wal-akhiru wal-zahiru wal-batin, as Allah mentions in Surah Hadid. This is the accurate way to describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was a side point. Okay, we move now to the next verse. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. لا الشمس ينبغي لها. It is not befitting for the sun to do تدرك القمر. Okay, so you have the moon, and with the moon comes the night, darkness. With the sun comes light. So Tabari said, what Allah meant here is that the light of the sun doesn't come and interfere with the light of the moon, meaning the darkness of night is not contravened by the light of the sun. When the sun has its time, it's there without darkness of the moon. But when the moon has its time at night, the sun doesn't come and interfere with the darkness. And Allah has separated them out. The two don't mix together. لَا الشَّمْسُ يَنْبَغِي لَهَا. It is not befitting for the sun to do that, because we have determined it not to do that. And tudrik. Tudrik comes from the word idrak. Idrak means to encompass. Encompass. So the sun doesn't come and spoil the darkness of the night. Okay. After saying that, Allah then said, وَلَا اللَّيْلُ سَابِقُ النَّهَارِ. And nor does the night come and interfere with the day. The two have been set out by Allah separately, so they do not interfere. In fact, what that implies, okay, which is the meaning, the spirit behind it, is that the phenomena of night and the phenomena of day have come together in complete harmony. That they don't interfere with one another. Neither in terms of their timings, the daytime has been set, the nighttime has been set, nor in terms of the light, that the light is there in the day and it doesn't come to interfere in the night. Okay, so in both those senses, Tabari mentioned both those senses. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكِ يَسْبَحُونَ. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma said, وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكِ. وَكُلٌّ, he said, refers to everything, not just to the sun and the moon, but to the layl and the nahar as well. The night, the day, the moon and the sun, kullun fi falak. What does falak mean? Falak means here that it is again moving, but not just moving. Moving now in a circular manner. Moving in a circular manner. We'll get to what that means later on. Yasbahun. This sibaha, as Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, means that something continually is moving. Continually is moving. So, falak referred to circular movement. Yasbahun referred to continual. Over and over again. That's why Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala referred to this falaki yasbahun as a mighzal, the spindle. Have you seen a spindle? Which you see it on the sewing machine. It's like a circular rod, and then the thread winds around it. Have you seen that before? It goes round and round and round, right? So he said, وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ, that all of them are like this. And Ibn Abbas added to that, that this phenomena Allah is describing here, فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ, is happening فِي السَّمَاء, happening out there, in the sky, in the space. Okay, so this is referring to the astronomical phenomena of the orbiting of the sun and the moon. Now, Ibn Taymiyyah said something slightly different. He said that in a very simple way, he said falak means istadar, i.e. to go around in a circular motion, and sibaha means moving at speed. We've mentioned that. He said in a simple sense, it could mean seeing something appear and then again appear later, and so on. Seeing it close and then far. So in that sense, it is very true that the sun appears and then it goes away, and then it appears again. Likewise, the moon appears and then disappears and appears again. Like a circular motion. Something comes and then it goes and it comes again in the very same place. That's like a circle, like an orbit. This is true then for everything that Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma said, because he said it refers to night, day, sun and the moon. All of these things, these four entities, come and go. Come and go. Now the meaning of all of this together is that Allah Jalla wa Ala placed this entity moon in a particular motion, set it on a particular course. Then the sun, He set that on a particular course. And then the night, and then the day. وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. But all of them come together in complete harmony. That the moon comes at its right time, the sun comes at its right time. Daytime is there and nighttime is there. There's no interference. There's no contravention. There's no upset in this cycle. It is happening by the qadr of Allah. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. Happening with precision, determination, and moreover to the benefit of you all. All of these things. And you imagine the sun, and he is under control by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The moon also, not only are they under control, He brought them together to move and to appear and reappear in beautiful harmony and in sync. So these ayat refer to the general phenomena. طيب. As we mentioned, the eclipse, it is the abnormal, it is the exception. So these places that lie so far up north and so far down south, they experience exceptional circumstances. Sunlight for so long, nighttime for so long, sometimes in some cases months on end. These are, if you like, different ayat from Allah. That the norm has been placed like this. However, there are also exceptions which Allah has also decreed. But they are, if you like, a different ayah. Just like the eclipse. That when something changes out of the norm, that itself makes you reflect, who did that? And all of a sudden it changed. We know it to be like this, but here it's different. Who is doing this and who is doing that? All of it is going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, next ayah. وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ أَنَّا حَمَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ فِي الْفُلْكِ الْمَشْحُونِ. Okay, now another ayah. These previous ayat were speaking about things that relate to every person. But they weren't direct. They weren't ayat that actually relate to the person or people themselves. They were about the phenomena that happens out there, the sun, the moon, the night and the day. This ayah, okay, now speaks about a sign that is more direct. وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ. And another ayah for them, referring to the Quraysh of Makkah, is what? أَنَّا حَمَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. That we carried their progeny, fil fulk, in this fulk, which means safina, the ship, al-mashhun, which has a number of meanings, but it means that it was loaded. Basic meaning that it was loaded. Now the first thing is here, is if this refers to the Quraysh, and the boat, as most Mufassirun said, refers to the ark of Nuh, the boat of Nuh, how do we understand Dhurriya, the progeny? Because the progeny of the Quraysh is coming now. Nuh came when? Before. How did the two come together? I won't bother asking, I don't think anyone would be able to get this answer, but anyone have any inclination and how they explain this? Anything? No? But it's a real question though, isn't it? If dhurriya linguistically means progeny, offspring, and it comes after, but Allah is saying those progeny, we carried them on the ship of Nuh, which came before. I don't have a second cup, but you can go ahead.
I don't know if they understood them, but genes, the DNA and stuff like that.
Okay, that's close. Good. You have anything else?
I was going to say lineage.
Yeah, lineage. What do you mean, like coming down lineage?
Yeah, like, pretty much.
Okay, it's similar to what the brother said. It's very close. Okay, they explained it as following. They said that the dhurriya, okay, linguistically means progeny, but dhurriya comes from the word dharra, yadhurru. Okay, dharra yadhurru refers to a tiny ant, a speck, powder, as well as offspring, as well as to scatter. Dharra also means to scatter and to spread around the world. Okay, to spread something around the world. This is the very basic meaning of dharra. The second point is that dhurriya, okay, is the singular, and dhurriyat is the plural. Now the third point, building up to the explanation, they said two things. The dhurriya, the offspring, has the seed of the son of Adam. Every human being has this intrinsic part of their makeup, which is in the sperm of the man, which is passed down. Okay? So the people of Nuh who believed in him were saved. They had this seed of mankind. Had they not been saved, mankind wouldn't exist today. They wouldn't exist today. So Allah said, حَمَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. Those offspring you had, we were carrying them in those people of Nuh. When we saved them from the flood, the tufan, and now because of me doing that, then you now have your dhurriya here today with you. Okay? The second interpretation has been attributed to Ali radiallahu ta'ala. He said that because Allah is now causing their offspring to carry within them this sperm, the nutaf, of their forefathers, which their women are now carrying inside their wombs, it is as if this woman who carries this seed, this sperm of the man now, is like Allah carried mankind on the ship on that day before. Do you see the connection there? That here, this dhurriya has this meaning of the reproductive fluid of man and woman. This reproductive fluid of man and woman goes inside the womb of the mother. She then carries it and gives it the life. In the very same way, Allah Jalla wa Ala carried the sperm of man on the ark on that day when He saved them from the flood. There's two interpretations. The second one is more of a metaphorical one. Okay, now what does this mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking yet again about His sign in helping mankind, taking care of His creatures, looking after them. Two things point towards this care and affection of Allah for His creatures in this ayah. The first is that Allah didn't mention the flood, and Allah never mentioned salvation. He didn't say, I saved you, and that there was a flood. Rather, Allah said, hamalna, that we carried you. This is, if you like, the sabab, the reason why you were saved. Not that I saved you. The reason why you were saved is because I carried you. And in what? In a fulk which is mashhoon. This is the second point, because mashhoon means that this ship was laden, was supplied and equipped with everything that you needed. So not only did I save you, but I placed on that ship all of these creatures. All of these creatures that you see here today, they were placed on that boat as well. Moreover, I provided for you food on that boat as well. So I took care of you by carrying you through that flood. And when I carried you, I made you able to construct this ship by inspiring Nuh, and on that ship it was mashhoon, it was full of all of those things that you are enjoying today. Had Allah not done any of that, you wouldn't even be here. So do you see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing mankind the care, the rububiyyah, His rububiyyah towards His creatures, the care and the affection, and taking care of the needs of His people. Okay. We can move now to the next ayah. وَخَلَقَنَا لَهُم مِّن مِّثْلِهِ مَا يَرْكَبُونَ. You see, the verse previously spoke about a mode of transport. The mode of transport there was the ship. But the thing is, fulk, they said it's not just any ship. It is a big ship. And Allah didn't just speak about a big ship. He spoke about a ship which is big, laden with all of these goods. The ship sails on the sea. Allah is saying, on the bahr, on the sea, we allowed you to use it as a mode of transport. Now, وَخَلَقَنَا لَهُم مِّن مِّثْلِهِ مَا يَرْكَبُونَ. That was the sea. Now look at what we have done for you here on the earth. There are similar types of transport here for you. But go back to the sea first. And even in our times, human beings are benefiting immensely by the ability to traverse the ocean, to have this ability to move from one place to another by ship on sea. The main benefit that we have today is because of the transfer of oil, paraffin, petroleum. How much oil, do you think this world consumes in a year? Roughly. Do you know? Think of the oil tanker. You know these oil tankers? They have these huge ones, massive ones. They said that one of those oil tankers can carry 550,000 tons of oil. One oil tanker, 550,000 tons. And if you imagine that huge ship carrying all of that weight, but yet it doesn't sink. How does it not sink? Unbelievable. That weight on water, and water carries it. How is that possible? وَآيَةٌ. That is an ayah for you. that not only did I give you benefit from it, but look at the way it benefits you. It doesn't even, you can't even comprehend it sometimes. That the water that we drink can carry a ship that big. And what is that ship carrying? Things that you need to live everyday lives. Amazing. Now, moreover, after the sea, وَخَلَقَنَا لَهُم مِّن مِثْلِهِ مَا يَرْكَبُونَ. We have also made similar things. The thing is, in the previous ayah we forgot to mention that the fulk has two interpretations. The first is the ship of Nuh. The second view is that the fulk actually refers to Ibl, the camel, because the Arabs of that time would refer to the camel as the ship of the land. The ship of the land. How comes? Because just like the ship carries people and their luggage, so too does the camel carry people and its luggage. So they said in the second view that fulk can also refer to the camel. The third view is also that it can refer to an'am, any creature that Allah has made in its nature to carry human beings. So here the meaning would be that if we say it can mean ship, then خَلَقَنَا لَهُم مِّن مِثْلِ مَا يَرْكَبُونَ refers to the other modes of transport on the earth. But had we said the second view, that fulk means ibl, camel, then this verse would mean the following: that we have made for you things that intrinsically you can use for traveling and mounting, like the camel. We have placed within the camel this nature to take on a human being, carry him upon instruction. Allah placed that in the nature of the camel. And also He placed it in the nature of the sea to carry you when you make a ship. And by the way, the ship itself only came about because I inspired my Prophet. But this is the original things that I have made for you. مِن مِثْلِهِ مَا يَرْكَبُونَ. But you can come up with your own ways of transport too. You can come with your own ways. These are the original ways, but you can come with your own ideas and make it yourself. Like we have, for example, today, the cars, the aeroplanes, all the different types of vehicles that we have. That again should be attributed back to Allah. وَخَلَقَنَا لَهُم مِّن مِثْلِهِ مَا يَرْكَبُونَ. That even though you are riding those things now, who is the one who gave you the qudra, the ability to come up with those inventions? Did you do it all by yourself? Allah gave you that ability too. That's why Allah said, Allahu khalaqa lakum ma fil ardi jami'a. Allah said in Surah Baqā'ī, we created all of this for you human beings, for you to use. And Allah said that He created you وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ, and that which you do. So you have all of these resources, I gave you that. And then what you do, what you make yourself, I also am doing that. Because I gave you the ability to do that. I gave you the ability to come up with the idea and then follow the idea through and actually make it with the resources that we have given you. So all of this khair, all of this goodness, you should, out of adab with Allah, attribute it back to Him. Never for a moment think that somehow we independently came about with some benefit in our lives from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the worst type of adab that you can have with Allah. And the best type is to recognize in everything around you, Allah is the one giving it to me. Allah is the source of benefit. Okay, now the last two verses. Allah Jalla wa Ala now moves to give an even more direct sign and address. He said, وَإِن نَشَأْ نُغْرِقَهُمْ فَلَا صَرِيخَ لَهُمْ وَلَا هُمْ يُنْقَذُونَ. وَإِن نَشَأْ نُغْرِقَهُمْ. Had we drowned them, there would be no sarikh for them, nor would there be anyone to do yunqadhun. What do these words mean? I want you to imagine that out there in the sea, there are a group of people traveling on a ship. Like Allah mentioned the ship. A storm is there in the midst. They see it coming. The waves then start to build up and they begin to become anxious. Then they realize that they are now in a critical situation. And it seems as though this boat that was once so stable is now beginning to rock. And they feel that the moment has come now, that perhaps we may even die here now. At that moment, Allah said, at that moment, there is no sarikh for them. What does sarikh mean? Sarikh comes from the root sarkh. Sarkh means to cry out for help, to yell, to shriek. This is the meaning of sarkh. فَلَا صَرِيخَ لَهُمْ means that those people making sarkh, crying out for help, there will be no one to come to respond to that sarkh. There will be no sarikh for them. No one to come and to take them out of that situation. But not just that. Allah then said, وَلَا هُمْ يُنْقَذُونَ, that there will be no one, translated as to save them. But we just mentioned that there's no one, there's no sarikh for them. So what does this mean? What does this mean? This means that now that person, after he's on the ship and he sees that the situation is precarious and he's going to perhaps fall out of this boat and into the water, he then actually finds himself falling into the water. And as he's wailing now in the water and the seawater is going inside of his throat, he is now literally drowning. When that point comes, then there will be no one to do yanqudhun. Yanqudhun, naqdh, has this meaning of not just saving and escaping, but of delivering. Delivering and receiving and taking out. Amazing. You were in that situation where you needed help and you cried out, no one was there to come. And then when you found yourself drowning, at that point, the last moments, there was no one there to pull you out. Subhanallah. Ibn Āshūr said that the coming together of these two expressions, the first, فَلَا صَرِيخَ لَهُمْ, and then وَلَا هُمْ يُنْقَذُونَ, together in this order, this one followed by this one, emphasizes emphatically that if you, man, find yourself in distress, in a critical situation, you should know no one out there can save you except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one except Allah could come to your aid at that point. Re-emphasizing from both of these expressions that there is no one out there. There is no one out there that could possibly save you except Allah. That is why Allah then said, إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِنَّا. It is only by my mercy. Okay, it is only by my mercy. What does that mean? Tabari said, it means that you live on the land and you traverse on the sea with relative ease because of my rahmah. It is my rahmah which is holding all of this together in relative peace. You can go on the ship and sail across the ocean in relative peace. You don't find that as soon as you get on the ship capsizes. And you can live on the earth and not experience all of these disasters day in, day out, because my rahmah is keeping it like this. Now there's an important lesson here. You know, in our times, in the Western world, people don't worship idols like the Quraysh did. But the Quraysh, when they worshipped idols, they attributed to those idols some of the attributes of Allah. But in the very same way, don't you see how people in our times attribute some of the attributes of Allah to other than Him? For example, when natural disasters happen, what do you find news outlets reporting? How do they word an earthquake? In 2011, Japan suffered 2 earthquakes. The BBC reported that nature struck twice on the people of Japan and claimed the lives of 15,800 people. Look at the wording. Nature struck. Nature claimed the lives of these people. A science magazine, the cover reads that natural disasters, we are at the helm of the elements. And what elements are there out there that we are at the helm of? We are just surrendering ourselves to. What elements are there that have control over us? Mother Nature has been given this attribute of power over mankind. It is Mother Nature who is being attributed this qudra, power of Allah. So the same manifestation of shirk as the Quraysh used to do is still here in our times. Shaykh Safar al-Hawali hafidhahullah made this point in his sharh of Tahawiyah. He said that, don't you see that in our times things have changed, but the essence is still there. Taking some of Allah's attributes, in this case his rububiyyah, and giving them to other than him. Whether it's Mother Nature, or whether it's the elements, or whether it's an idol. Does it really make a difference? No, it doesn't. It's the same thing. So to conclude, إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَمَتَاعًا إِلَى حِينٍ. So Allah is saying, it is only by my rahmah that you live in relative ease and peace. وَمَتَاعًا إِلَى حِينٍ. But even then, you escape that precarious situation. Even if you manage to escape that scene, what is ahead? Mata'. It is just a small amount of time until maut comes, until death comes. And you escaped one death. But the reality is that death is coming to every single one of us at one stage or another. إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَمَتَاعًا إِلَى حِينٍ. And that is the way the verse ends. There's one point Ibn Kathīr mentioned, I wanted to share it with you. Sorry, Qurtubi mentioned. Qurtubi said that the prophets of the past, their nations, Allah hastened to punish them when they denied their prophet. However, with the Prophet ﷺ, Allah delayed their punishment. Allah delayed their punishment. And this verse points to that. إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَمَتَاعًا إِلَى حِينٍ. O Quraysh, I'm not going to punish you right now. I'm going to allow you to live the course of your short lives. And then when you die, then you will come back to me. And then I will hold you to account. So he mentioned this as another side point. Inshallah, we'll conclude here. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.